Because, I mean, you know, the fiscal cliff is a joke. Obama, Boner, and the rest of these clowns are taking you for a ride. Here's the deal. Obama traded an extension on unemployment benefits, which elucidates how bad the economy really is, which is it's about a cost of about $40 billion annually, and exempts the healthcare industry, which benefits more from Obamacare than consumers do, at about $31 billion. This gives $64 billion in tax breaks to businesses, and an increase on taxes for people around 400K. That's about what the fuck is that about? 622 billion over a decade. About 63 billion annually. Without this deal, though, if they'd gone over the fiscal cliff, military costs would have been cut in the first year by about 55 billion, and tax revenues increased to at least 80 plus a year. 80 plus billion a year. It's obvious that we're much better off going over the cliff, and that these unemployment extensions are just some half-ass excuse to extend tax cuts permanently to high earners. This would be the third time, by the way. See, the thing is, when we renew the unemployment extensions and we reduce the tax revenue by giving Bush cuts to those who make over 400K but exempt the 250K earners, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. This is a pathetic, ignominious dog and pony show by the False Divide group, and it's obvious that they don't take you seriously. Reid was sitting on legislation from the House for months to avert this whole entire debacle, but Obama refused to make any kind of concessions, and he refused to acknowledge the benefits of just going over the cliff. And so basically what they did was they played this up, both sides, with only hours to spare, and came up with this half-ass BS trash legislation led by Designate Biden to come up with a way to benefit big business and save face with the uninformed fuckwit Obama drums. Them jacket dandies think you're all stupid, and guess what? They're right. You elected that scumbag again, and you got screwed. And what's really interesting, what just really amuses me, is the fact that when you listen to a lot of the people on the False Divide, they love to tap around and just dance around and try to justify what's actually taking place. Obviously telling themselves the give and take argument. And it's really pathetic. It only goes to show exactly how little the average American actually knows, and how infinitesimal their deductive reasoning is. I mean, let's get down to brass tacks here. Let's get down to brass tacks here, kids. They kept bringing up crap that didn't even matter, like Social Security and Medicare. These things had nothing to do with the deficit, and never did. So why is any of this a part of the negotiations? Why was this a part of the negotiations other than both sides really want to get their hands on that money that they can't touch to pay down the debt to China, the Eurozone, and these inanely copious amounts of money they've spent on wars for the Chosenites and the Saudis? Secondly, like I've said myriad times, the tax cuts originally were supposed to start at 250K. It was a temporary cut, and it should have been expired 2 years ago, but Change Boy decided to extend them twice. That is a revenue that should have already been in the hands of the U.S. Treasury, managed by Goldman Sachs execs that Obama put in to run the Treasury. But he didn't do it. See, and the thing is, by raising it to $400K, 1/3 of the revenue is now gone. Americans have once again bought the lie that if we don't pay down the deficit and cut all spending on programs that actually benefit them, while preserving benefits for super rich people, then we're going to go into another recession. This is a Reaganite type of ideology, and that's exactly what dude is. Any economist with a brain will tell you that Obama and the douchebag party are doing things ass backwards and harming the system more than they're helping it, and that things are doing better, which they aren't. They are getting better. I think Nader called it best when he said that Obama does nothing but double talk. He's had a 7-term record of this kind of shit, where he'll say one thing and he'll do the exact opposite. He did this continually in his first term. His apologists decry that he's just a poor negotiator, and that he's but the thing is, he's fully aware, and he's completely culpable for all this horrid legislation. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a strategist. He didn't cave into the neocons. He does what he's always intended on doing, following Reagan policy under the Democratic flag. His dumbass supporters refuse to believe it, and then you got the lesser of two evil clowns who basically just got a fat dose of evil incarnate in the first 6 days. Nice. Man, this guy, he's a demon, and he's setting the stage for a horrible future. If you haven't heard, or if you haven't read up on this, he has signed in the NDAA with the clause that gives the American government, what the hell is it, indefinite detention of anyone for no reason. Something that his idol Ronald Reagan would have loved. As a strategist, regardless of what side of the false divide they're on, they recognize the masses as a means to power. To them, you're nothing but a pliable force of resource, like water or oil. You're bauxite, you're aluminum, you're iron to these people. To be twisted one way or another for their own causes. When looking at the gun issue, for instance, one has to stop and think, what does it matter if you have a gun? They control the supply. They control the supply of ammunition, and they have far deadlier weapons than you'll ever be armed with. You're pretty much armed as well as the Taliban is. Although gun control is nonsensical, the reality is that they, as well as you, know that no one will demand justice as long as people aren't willing to fight or defend themselves, and you aren't willing to defend yourselves against these forces. You see them as protectors. Another reality is that they will not respect people because people are intimidated by factors of the system. Cops, banks, insurance, etc. Things that are at least told to you to make you believe that to safeguard you are now there to control you. Every aspect of your life. Cops control you to where you police yourselves on very simple things, like crossing the street when it's red when there's no cars around. Insurance, you pay not because you're worried of getting hit, because they'll renege if they have to, but you're worried that if you get pulled over by one of those cops, you'll have to pay a fat ass fine. You're worried about banks because they might take a fee out. You get a what is it, like a $30 fee if you take money from your checking account to your savings and your savings to your checking. If you do that like I think 6 times online, you get like a $30 fee for every transaction after that. They're scared of that. They're scared of insurance companies reneging on surgeries, so you end up having to pay a lot, high premiums. These things pump fear into people and control them. Society is made to control you with these policies. They don't benefit you. And the thing is with Obama, Reaganites like Obama, they're put in place basically to play with the public's rage and keep them divided. Obama has proposed nothing to help pull the nignogs out of their present decline, nor increase their job employment. He's pandered to big business and helped increase the number of H-1Bs to America. He's given billions to corporations who outsource and made one of their CEOs his job czar, as if to mock the people as they suffer. On top of this, welfare benefits are being constantly decreased. The people are suffering in epic proportions. But, like I said, that's why he's there. Because I've learned that any sort of disparaging remark, any sort of thing that discourages and elucidates how horrible the Obama administration is, brings up a retort that it's the Republicans' fault. It's their fault for Obama's negligence to bring opportunity and jobs to a desperate America, while they ignore the fact that he created 3 job deals worse than NAFTA, and that all of these deals, including NAFTA, essentially use cheap foreign labor against Americans to force them into lower wages with longer hours and less benefits. Or the present fiscal cliff deal favoring concentrated wealth and ownership. This should convince even the most hardcore Obamalite that this jackass practices natural selection for the middle class and promotes privilege, power for the speculators, inside traders like Nancy Pelosi, the super rich, and foreign creditors and backers like ALP. This administration and their fake opposition are basically leading you people into a huge feudal class gap, just like the place their ancestors came from. See, here's the deal. There was no lost ground. America never lost its way. America never lost its way. Here's the reality. The ancient Romans, they were able to put in place a strategy that closes. They were never able to put in a strategy that closed the gap between the rich and the poor, and it led to their downfall. America, since its founding day, has never had that intent. It's never had said intent. There is no want to close a class gap. The purpose of this place is, was, and always has been to give the oligarchy from the Anglo world, and later most of Europe, a place to escape the kings and allow them to hoard their money and manipulate their serfs unhindered. That is the purpose of America. Do not be confused. These people care a lot about the Constitution, as it was written for them, not you. You just got lucky with FDR. This fiscal cliff crap is just basically the false divide group kicking a can down the road. If any of these half-assed jack-o'-dandies were ever serious about change and bettering the economy and helping the American citizens, they would put in place regulations that hinder class warfare. They would enact protections that strengthen the words of the New Deal laws put in place by FDR. They'd finish his second Bill of Rights. They'd reinstate Glass-Steagall, etc., etc., etc. But what did they do instead? Guys like Carter, Reagan, Clinton, Bush second, Trash Obama, they've deregulated everything, and they've helped consolidate wealth for the rich and benefit corporations. If America really had its way, it would keep the Americans in a perpetual state of poverty, boom and bust, while the developing world stays in turmoil. That way they can keep using that cheap labor and unregulated resources against you, instead of allowing nations to fully develop with real leadership that has foresight and economic longevity. If these people were serious, they wouldn't be killing millions of Arabs or helping slaughter Africans for oil and precious minerals. They wouldn't be helping traffic Eastern Europeans into Israel and the Middle East for sex slavery or allowing Asians to be used as cheap labor. There would be no reason to try and strangle Argentina economically and allow them to be a haven for cheap labor and land grabs for China and their GMO crops, simply because Kirchner doesn't want to go back into debt slavery under the Paris Club. The thing is, if you pay these people in these countries equal wages, let them form unions and have workers' rights, you'd watch your own wages decrease because there'd be no incentive to hire them or to run to their countries. And that's one thing America really wants to see. They want to see China fail. They rule the day. They fear in their heart of hearts the day that countries like China, Bangladesh, Peru, Chile, Mexico, India, etc. enact laws that protect their people and protect their laborers and pay them higher wages, which would basically nullify H-1Bs, because they'd have no reason to come here. They'd make their own wages and be stable in their own countries. That is what America fears more than anything.